Thank you for tuning in to another episode of InRange. This is the October 2017 Q&A, and I've actually found this guy.
They let me out of Rock Island.
He's been wandering the planet doing weird videos about stuff.
I escaped.
Yeah. Anyways.
And now I'm back for tomorrow we leave for
Red October AK.
October match.
And then we're back for 3 days.
And then we leave for the Tiger Valley match.
So we got a lot of cool... You've gone from one extreme to the other, sitting in a room talking about weird old esoteric guns, to shooting modern guns running around like a maniac. Yeah. So it'll be a fun couple of weeks, actually.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually really looking forward to these two matches.
We have 5 pages of Q&A questions, again, and that's after curation, and we still can't do these all. We talked about doing it in the car, and it's like, it's going to be too much noise. We kind of have to restrict this to about an hour.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and keep this going. And by the way, if your question didn't make it in this and you're in the Patreon perk level that allows you to ask these questions, please just ask it again and notate, I asked this before. And that way I'll put a higher priority. If we didn't get you, we'll try to get you next time.
Hey, assholes, answer this finally.
Exactly. Yeah. Fair enough. We have a bunch of What Would Stoner Do in AR-15 related stuff. We'll grab those first, and then we'll move through.
All right.
So first one, Mark B. Is an 11.5-inch AR worth the weight and overall length savings versus a 14.5-inch for a 0 to 300-yard defensive rifle?
My first thought with that question is, well, no, because NFA means you have to have a 5.5-inch thing on the end of the gun.
Let's exclude the law. Let's talk technical.
However, what my thought is, given the ATF's current positions on shoulder braces, that's actually a viable option.
It's an interesting point.
Yeah, that's not as goofy of a question as it may have been, a year ago.
I didn't even think about legality. I thought about strictly the technical part of it.
Yeah.
Now, so the question is it 11.5-inch worth the weight and overall savings for a 14.5-inch? And my answer to that, in my opinion, is yeah, I think it would be.
Okay.
An 11.5-inch gun, technically, depending on what ammunition you're using, and I'm going to get misquoted here, or I'm going to misquote myself, I believe it actually loses its fragmentation velocity at around 100 yards.
You're basically getting a submachine gun.
Kinda.
And if you're using it for a role where a submachine gun would be reasonably appropriate, then why not?
So this is where the challenge comes in this question. He specifically states 0 to 300.
I don't want an 11.5. Well,
yeah, see, now this is a challenge because you can absolutely hit stuff at 300 yards with an 11.5-inch gun.
Oh, yeah. Barrel length has no impact on accuracy at range.
I would let me lay over this. Your projectile choice is extremely deterministic on whether or not this question can be answered appropriately.
There you go.
If you're stuck with M193 55-grain ball or 62-grain ball, I would say no. If you're in an environment where you can put whatever you want in your gun and choose different projectiles, I would say yes.
Some sort of little 40-grain soft point, maybe?
Something. Well, there's a lot of variety out there in that world, and that's a conversation that could go on for years.
Yeah,
but
in fact.
If you're willing to pick somewhat cool guy projectiles,
unorthodox ammunition, or more than 25 cents per round ammunition.
If you're not going to restrict yourself to the cheapest, lowest common denominator projectile, I think the answer to that is, notwithstanding NFA restrictions, yes, it is worth the cost of weight savings and overall length. If you're not willing to play those games and you're just going to stick with 55 grain or 62 grain, stick with the 14.5-inch. All right. London J. If you guys could pick one weapon pre-1960 to improve, what would it be?
Am I going first or you?
Yeah, that's more you than me, actually.
EM2.
Okay. Bullpup.
Just because it's cool.
That's
not saying I could make it into something that would actually be competitive and viable today, but it's one of the few rifles that really didn't get a whole lot of R&D adoption and iterative development work. Look at a lot of the other common rifles from that period, and they may not have gotten as much development as the AK or the AR, but they did get some. There was a lot of development of the G3 system. There was a lot of development in the FOUL system. The EM2 didn't get any of that because it basically never got adopted in the first place.
Yeah, this one's a hard one for me. My gut instinct, and maybe it's just being an American shooting the guns, I think that there could have been stuff that was not the M1A, M14 that could have been done with the M1 Garand.
Yeah.
Like the BM59 or the Italian approach that you just did a video on that. But I think the M1 had legs that could have been stretched.
Bring it down to a slightly less powerful cartridge.
Yeah.
Add the capacity.
Or to not get accused, to be accused again of German stuff. But the reality is the G43 was a design that if it was taken away from flapper lock and maybe chambered in a different round and made from better metallurgy and better gas system, there was problems with the gun. But I think the design and handling of the gun was good.
So what you're saying is basically if you took the gas piston out and put it in an entirely new gun.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying the flapper lock thing is a little foolhardy. And I'm saying that the metallurgy of the 43 and how they manufactured it was less than optimal in the wartime conditions.
Yeah.
But I think the rifle design, the handling, and if you ever shoot one, had more merit than it was granted because it was never machined in a way that it would have been able to get what it could have gotten out of it.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
The EM2 is, at its heart, a G43 flapper-locked action.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. We have a very similar answer, although I came at that completely ignorantly compared to what you were saying.
Very similar, although just totally different.
Okay. Well, that'd be my answer. I would say I would put my emphasis. You have the EM2. I would say either the M1 Garand had places it could have gone.
Better places.
Better places that it could have gone than it did. And the G43 manufactured in better, more optimal conditions with some tweaks could have had a lot more lifespan. That's what I think. All right. Itchy Dragon, opinion on the A1 or A2 carry handle design. So, of course, the carry handle on the M16 series of rifles.
Well, it's not a carry handle.
Not a carry handle.
No, it's a charging handle cover, guide protector.
The original charging handle on the AR-15 design was actually on the AR-10, and then the AR-15 at the very beginning was a hook. Looked like a trigger, pointed upwards like this, that was under what you guys are calling the carry handle, and it was really that carry handle was just there to prevent you from inadvertently striking that charging handle. Right,
it was that, and it was a place to mount your rear sight, because the rear sight had to be substantially elevated so that you could have a straight line buttstock and raised sights.
So it became a kind of all-in-one thing to protect the charging handle and to provide a sighting system.
It does work reasonably well as a carry handle, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the charging handle was moved because of heat problems.
Right.
But the carry handle stayed along for the ride, and it became a carry handle, even though that wasn't its intended goal.
Right.
So I would say that I think my opinion on it is that actually, if you ever carry one of those things in the field, it actually is pretty convenient.
Yeah.
Picking that thing up by that handle, whether it wasn't intended to be a handle, is pretty cool.
That's an awkward one, though, because at least in today's civilian shooting world, you don't get to carry a rifle that way, because if you carry it by that carry handle, you're swinging the barrel all over the place at people level, and that's very much frowned on.
But if you're walking from here to the other end of Vietnam, and you want to, it's a pretty convenient little thing.
Definitely.
It's no longer really relevant or convenient now because we have pick rails and we have sighting systems that no longer really have a proclivity to having that charging handle there anymore, so it's seen its day.
Right.
But I think it was kind of cool when it was around.
Yeah. There are a bunch of other handles that are kind of like that.
Yep. Totally. Michael C. I just watched your video about the JP captured buffer system and was curious if you guys tried any other buffer systems, for example, the Veltor A5.
I haven't.
Well, you did, because the original What Would Stoner Do builds just had standard buffers in them before we switched to the JP.
Yeah, standard ones, but I haven't tried any other like advanced aftermarket improved buffer systems.
So you can tell that I'm like, psychologically tweaking his answer here. When we switched from the old style buffer to the JP, did you notice a difference in improvement? Did you like it better? You said on the video that you said it was not a required improvement, but that there was an improvement there.
I honestly don't think I can tell the difference shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I like it in there because of the disassembly, because I can get rid of the detent pin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever really noticed a sproinging noise in the GWAX lowers.
I agree. The GWAX generally doesn't sproing.
Because they don't have a metal buffer tube in there.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't get that harmonic. So I think that's really the one noticeable change you would see with the JP. Now, maybe someone who's more in tune with their rifle and has done a lot more shooting could notice an actual difference in handling and feel shot to shot.
I don't know who that would be, but I've heard of people like that.
Okay. Not you?
No, I don't know. But what I will say, I've used almost every buffer system possible known to man in an AR-15. Some of that becoming before InRange was ever a thing. I even tried hydraulic buffers. In high power land. Yeah. Hydraulic buffers, by the way, while they work, feel great.
Yeah.
Until they stop. What happens is they break, and then all this goo just runs out the bottom of your gun. Do not do the hydraulic buffers.
We did actually look at the Veltor.
I have a gun set up that way.
The problem was it wasn't compatible with the GWAX lower, as I recall.
It is a rifle length carbine buffer system. Yeah. But where we came to for the JP wasn't entirely because of its performance increase, but because it was a capture system.
Yeah.
And we wanted something that was different than the loose spring, loose buffer, and potentially broken buffer detent, and have it all come out as one unit, which I think is a reasonable upgrade to the AR-15 system to have that all captured in one thing.
Yep, I agree.
It does happen.
Obviously, I agree.
Yeah, it does also happen to have the secondary improvement, besides being a captured system, of actually being very nice in how it recoils, getting rid of the sproing, which is not that big a deal, but all that together makes it a nice part.
Yeah.
I do use in one of my ARs, because I surprisingly have more than one AR, and they're not all What Would Stoner Do builds, I do have a Veltor A5 configured gun. And I will say that on the market, that if you're going to get a more standard buffer system, that's a winner. That thing's great. It recoil mitigation's great. It cycles nice. It doesn't have the sproing. The Veltor A5 is fantastic.
Okay.
If you can't do the Veltor A5, some of the Spikes Tactical that are like dead blow hammers that are filled with powder, those are really nice as well. The reason for the JP was it was a captured system.
Okay.
But that does not mean that there are other improved buffer systems. And of those, I would say you're getting attacked by there.
Yeah,
I would say the Veltor A5, from my experience, is probably the nicest one on the market.
Okay, cool.
All right, Nathaniel. Karl and Ian, I realize Tiger Valley will be the final quote-unquote proof of concept for the What Would Stoner Do rifles. But given how well they perform thus far, have they more or less supplanted your other rifles for your primary quote-unquote go-to semi-automatic rifle?
More. Yeah, if someone told me, you have to run to the hills, whatever, there aren't a whole lot of hills out here, but run to the cactus and you can only take one rifle. Absolutely, without any hesitation, my Stoner rifle would be the one I take.
You would?
Yeah.
Not just because we helped work on that together. It's the one that you have the most faith in at this point?
Yeah, it is the most effective rifle in my hands that I have.
Yeah, I agree
I can
with that.
do more with that rifle than with any other rifle that I have.
Yep. And I know a lot of you guys out there in AR land are probably jaded, and I was too, and I am still. But when we started putting this together, we've said this before over and over again, that it's not one specific component. It's the parts in aggregate that until you actually use them in that aggregate, it's really hard to transfer that experience to the viewer on the other end of the camera.
Yeah.
We're not selling these things. We're not selling What Would Stoner Do rifles as a kit for some kind of in-range project. So it's not like there's not a fiduciary reason for us to promote these beyond that we like what we built.
Yeah.
Everyone we hand these to at a match, and I'm not kidding, one for one, everyone is like, what are the parts? I want this.
Yeah.
Including this last two-gun match, there's a couple that comes out that shoot. They're an older couple, but they're competent, good shooters.
Mm-hmm.
And she normally shoots a PS90 because she can't handle the big rifle.
She's about 100 pounds soaking wet and about this tall.
She is a small person.
Yes.
And so therefore the PS90 treats her well in terms of recoil and weight.
Yeah.
And it was not my What Would Stoner Do rifle. It was one of the other shooters has built one because he liked the idea. And he handed it to her and she tried it. She's like, oh, I want this.
Yeah.
She was immediately ready to go back to an AR because it had all the things that she needed, which was lightweight, recoil mitigation, etc. And you don't experience that with the What Would Stoner Do gun until you do it.
Right.
So I would say, yeah, if I had to run out the door and grab my rifle, my first grab would be the What Would Stoner Do carbine. My second grab would be my fully tricked out AK, which weighs double the weight but still has the same capabilities. But I would still grab the What Would Stoner Do gun first.
Honestly, I think if my answer wasn't my Stoner rifle, then I would have done something wrong with the Stoner rifle.
Fair.
It's the best platform to start with,
Mm-hmm.
and there is no reason that it shouldn't, or it doesn't have the capacity to be the best gun that I can own.
Yep, no, I agree. Because we're building it the way we want to build it, so therefore we're going to have it, ultimately the end result should land up where we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, what are your thoughts about an integrated gas key on a Stoner-type bolt carrier? It seems to me that would reduce the overall amount of parts by 3, and I cannot think of a downside. You said you didn't have much to add to that.
I got nothing. Never really looked at that closely.
I think you have a good point, Joe. So when you have a bolt carrier group, you have the bolt carrier group, and then the gas key is actually on top. 2 bolts hold it in, and then those are peened to prevent it from coming loose.
Right.
When they're improperly peened, that gas key can come loose, and you can have gas leakage.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem.
Yep.
And you have to make sure that those are peened properly. And it is, in theory, it is a gas key bolted on with 2 bolts to a carrier, so it is 3 parts. I don't know why they may be worthwhile to research this. I don't know why they designed it that way in the first place, as opposed to milling the bolt carrier group as one thing. It was probably something to do with the manufacturing process.
Yeah, it'd be way more expensive to integrate the gas key, I expect.
However, if you were to ask me, would you be willing to, and could you, and would you want to use a bolt carrier group that has an integrated gas key for a DI system AR? I'm not talking a piston system. I would say absolutely yes. I think it makes sense, and if we can machine them at a reasonable cost, maybe there's one already in the market that we haven't even seen. That would be something to consider for What Would Stoner additional content. I would absolutely want an integrated gas key because it reduces a failure point.
Sure.
And there's no downside to it besides cost.
None that I'm aware of.
Yep. All right. Brandon T. With your recent What Would Stoner Do builds, this is the section about What Would Stoner Do, you have shown a few interesting nice to have but non-essential improvements, such as the trigger, the JP captured buffer springs, for example. Are there any others that you saw that didn't make it into the rifle that you still found interesting and possibly worthwhile in a differently intended AR? What have we not done? Well, your scope, the primary arms 2.5x got discarded to the side.
Yeah.
We tried a bunch of other charging handles that were improvements to the charging handle system before we settled on the Geisley.
Yep.
There's actually another one I've seen recently that looks pretty interesting too. That's another conversation.
There is the adjustable bolt carrier for suppressing.
Oh, we have that in there.
Something we've kind of talked about, but it's not something we paid a lot of attention to.
And we haven't done a video on that yet.
Yeah, because it's not really, until we actually really want to suppress the rifles, which hasn't been a focus, it's not really relevant, but it does appear to be a product with a lot of really excellent potential.
Yep. So for people that don't know this, we have the Gemtech adjustable gas.
Gemtech,
So
yeah.
it's a Gemtech bolt carrier group, and you actually adjust the bolt carrier for your gas setting for suppressed or unsuppressed. You don't do it at the gas port. It's a fantastic product. It's the one we've been running predominantly in your rifle.
Yeah.
And we have run it occasionally suppressed, not on video, and it really does a great job.
Yeah, it does.
But that's probably something we're going to discuss that is not part of the What Would Stoner Do project, but just as a discussion on the side.
What about the lower receiver that integrates a magazine storage or a Glock storage into the buttstock?
I didn't think of that. That's I'm going to discard that one to the side.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think what other stuff did we. There were a couple other triggers that we played with that we just didn't go with. We went with other buffers and decided we'd go with the JP.
Yeah. In general, we know what we're trying to improve and to what end in the first place. And so if a product maybe is good but doesn't, or appears to be good but doesn't do what we are looking for, it's not something we're going to go out and buy to play with. At least not at this point.
Yep.
So
we avoided a lot of churn in terms of parts because we actually solicited and looked for what we wanted to have achieved by the design before we went soliciting for the part.
Right.
So we know we want an upper that doesn't have a forward assist. We know we want a polymer one, which I'd already had experience with. We know we want a captured buffer system. Right there, that decreases your options dramatically.
Right.
So by targeting very specifically, there's a good chance we missed a lot of things that we would have spent money on that we didn't use.
Yeah.
But like I said, we had churn on the charging handle, we had churn on the buffer system, we had churn on the optics.
Definitely.
And the optics were probably the most challenging part. We've had some, we had churn on the upper too, though, because we did have a Veltor upper and an Arrow upper. And while the Veltor upper was excellent, it didn't meet our goals. It was heavier and didn't quite work with the,
with the ambi parts.
We also had ambi churn.
Well, but he's asking about things that were good, but that we opted not to put
Stuff
in the
that was
rifle.
good that we opted not to use would have been some of the charging handles, some of the buffers, the Veltor upper, and the primary arms 2.5x optic.
Yeah.
Yep.
The bad lever is in fact bad.
The bad lever was not good. It is bad. That is correct. All right. Leslie W. What do you think of the value of the D60 drum in particular and drums in general in the modern day from a military point of view versus competition use?
I think they have limited but very real value for the military. The problem drums have always had reliability problems, and Magpul seems to have done a pretty good job fixing that.
They have.
And then they're a pain in the butt to carry.
Yeah.
It is almost always less bulky and less weight to carry ammunition in box mags than in drums. However, I think that the opportunity for this is with something like the Marine Corps new M27. Carry that rifle with a drum in it, and then all of your reloads are box mags.
And I think you could make the same argument for any other rifle or carbine as well.
Yeah.
We did that at Hard as Hell. Hard as Hell 2 gun required you to load the gun on the clock a lot, which is not something that's what we wanted to do with the D60.
Yeah.
But I would say that if you can start off in the field with your D60 as your first mag, which you then discard or throw in your dump pouch and then transition to 30s or 40s after that, I think the D60 is great.
The problem is it's really clunky to try and carry multiple spare drum magazines on your person.
Oh, yeah.
They don't stack. They're just bad.
But having it in the gun while you're right off the bat,
that keeps it out of the way.
And this is another place where saving ounces helps you have pounds. Having a lightweight gun where you stress every piece is an ounce less than it needs to be, and you make that thing as light as possible. When you throw a relatively heavy D60 drum in there, it still is lighter than another gun configured normally.
Right.
So you've now increased your ammunition capacity in one magazine by doubling it, and you haven't increased your weight by doubling it.
Right.
So yes, I think it does, but I think it's the mag you start with. I don't think you carry a bag of them. Yeah. All right, Rick M. You seem to be using high-end products to make as future-looking a rifle as possible. I find that very interesting. We'll get to that in a minute. Will you also be recommending things that are as close to as good when you finally figure out what the rifles should be for people trying to make something less expensive?
Not really.
No, I don't think so. First of all, let me take contention.
You're going to laugh at the Cav Arms thing, aren't you?
Yeah, this is weird to me. Look as high-end products as future-looking as possible. The original Mud tests had a G-Wax lower in it. In fact, or one of them did. I don't remember what. And we were told endlessly that the G-Wax was garbage tier stuff, or it was high-end tier stuff. The Aero Precision Upper, which is a $80 upper, $89 upper with no forward assist, I have been told that that's a garbage tier part. But because we put a relatively expensive JP buffer spring and charging handle in there, which we both agreed had a
very real purpose.
Yeah, they made the guns better. Suddenly, we're now making a very high-end rifle that is top tier.
Yeah.
It's an amalgamation of what some people call bottom tier and what some people call high-end top tier, all smashed together because we want the best component we're looking for. In some of those instances, it's a GeoX polymer lower, which I don't believe is bottom tier, but it's not one of the...
No, it's certainly not Gucci.
It's not an HK, right?
Yeah.
And the Aero Precision Upper, which is not Gucci.
Yeah.
But then we put a carbon fiber flow tube and the pencil barrel that's nitrided. Those are Gucci. We have a Gucci one. We have a semi Gucci 1-6X on your rifle right now, but it's not the most expensive one on the market by any stretch of the imagination.
And we tinkered with a $2,000 scope, and ended up, I think, going back to an $800 scope.
There's an example of that. I have a Hollow Sun and a Vortex magnifier. That doesn't strike me as going Gucci or high end just to make a future rifle.
No.
So it's weird that the minute you put some relatively expensive components on the gun, and we see this in the comments consistently, the charging handle, which people think is stupid and worthless, which they're wrong. It's actually quite a nice thing to have. The JP buffer system, which they're wrong, is quite a nice thing to have. Just because, or the carbon fiber flow tube, which actually turned out to be
essential,
way nicer than we thought it was. It wasn't just that it was lightweight. It's actually very durable.
Yep, and it's great for heat.
It's great for heat mitigation, not just the actual barrel getting hot, but just the radiant sun here in Arizona doesn't make it too hot to hold.
Right.
A regular quad rail will fry you. The other thing we learned is when I worked with primary and secondary and we did laser deflection, it didn't deflect any more than the H-Clay quad rail.
Nice.
What? Okay, so the point being is there's a reason that part's expensive in Gucci.
Right.
But the other stuff in it isn't. So I find it weird that the minute you put something quote-unquote expensive on your AR, you suddenly left behind a whole tier of people that want a good gun. And I don't think that's true or fair. I think we're trying to build something out of the best components that apply to the goals we want.
Right. There may be some areas where there are other parts that are as good as what we're using, but cheaper. But in general, if we have a couple of parts that are equivalent, we go with the cheaper of the options.
We didn't on everything. Apparently, there's another captured buffer system from, I think, Armageddon gear or something like that. I don't remember. I don't recall. I was already, let me be honest, some of this is competitive shooting that I was already familiar and trusted some components. I've been around the JP buffer spring system for years, seen it work. Didn't have one in one of my guns, but I've seen it work, seen it be reliable. And when I went into captured system, I immediately thought of the one that I knew was already proven in the industry. So we grabbed it. We didn't grab both because we didn't want to have to test both. And would we want to test the other one later? I don't know, maybe.
It's not that much to be testing on a part like that.
Well, there could be. I don't know. I mean, for example, if the metallurgy's bad or the springs are bad, I mean, there are things that could be there. But I went to one that I already knew and trusted. So therefore that. The charging handle, we went through a bunch of iterations. We went through cheaper ones. We went to more expensive ones. We went to one that was, granted, quite expensive. Because when we both used it, individually, we're like, oh.
When you pick it up and use it, you go, this is worth $90.
Okay. Well, actually, the charging handles, I think, more. But
a little more.
I don't remember. No, I think it's 90. The JP buffer spring's 130.
Yeah, the JP buffer spring is painfully expensive.
It is. Some of those parts aren't, some of them aren't. And you know what? Here's the thing. If you want to build a what would Stoner do like rifle, but you don't want to put some of those more expensive components in there, okay.
Yeah.
Put a different buffer system in it. Save the $100, I guess. You're not getting the full experience. You really aren't. But things that are essential, you need that carbon fiber flow tube. That's quintessential.
And the pencil barrel.
The pencil barrel, and I personally think the GeoX lower is quintessential as well.
And a trigger.
Yeah,
I would not consider, it doesn't have to be a particular trigger, but you need a better trigger than a gritty, whatever bottom end trigger comes with a lower.
Oh, I agree with that. You need a better trigger. I'm going to double down on the SLT1 from KE Arms because it's an excellent trigger. It's not really on that expensive tier that prices it out of other competitive components or parts.
Right.
And it does truly have a reliability additional functionality that a lot of triggers don't.
Yeah.
So I would say that of the things that you must do, pencil, barrel, carbon fiber float tube, and the trigger, the GWAX lower is a real plus. I mean, I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And then the rest starts becoming more questionable.
At that point, if you want a forward assist, it's not that big a deal. If you want a different buffer spring, it's not that big a deal. If you want a different charging handle, I would argue that while the good charging handles are substantially more expensive than the cheap ones, it's not an expensive part in the overall scheme of the rifle.
No,
and it's probably worth try one. You know what? That's the thing. Find a rifle with one, try it, and I think more often than not, people who do that will go, yeah, it's worth an extra $50 to put this in my gun compared to whatever piece is in there now.
I agree. So the goal was not to make the most expensive Gucci rifle possible. It also wasn't to make a budget rifle.
Right.
This was not the budget AR-15 project.
We really did not do this with any eye towards what the pieces cost.
Like you said, we tried a $2,000 scope and an $800 scope, and we'll end up probably going with the $800.
Well, actually, we started with a $200, and then a $2,000, and we ended up with $800 in the middle.
Yep, which you're going to hear more about after Tiger Valley.
Yeah.
So there you go. Ryan W., will you be touching on muzzle devices, or will you just keep the birdcage? Well, I can't. I have a 14.5-inch carbine which has permanently affixed flash hider which is there for legal purposes.
Yep.
Yours has a standard birdcage, partially because of suppressor compatibility with my Halo when we want to get into suppressors.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. The A2 birdcage is a fantastic design, and I see very little reason to change it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm not interested in trying to find a muzzle brake that's going to reduce recoil, because I don't consider that to be in any way relevant at this point on the rifle. It's just not an issue. I'm not concerned about reducing recoil, especially at the cost of increasing blast and concussion, which I think is a very real thing that is dramatically ignored by most people. The A2 is a really good flash hider.
It does a great job. The A2 really does mitigate flash. More importantly, it mitigates dust against it.
Yeah, the military did a lot of testing on muzzle devices, and maybe surprisingly for once, they came to a really good conclusion.
I think the A2 was a substantial improvement over the A1, and I cannot think of a reason to change it.
There's an example of something where the super cheap part is just as good, if not better, than all the... we could easily go spend $100 or $200 on a muzzle device.
Easily. Oh, but I thought we were building a high-end product. I'm kidding. No, the A2 is fine, and there was no reason to change it. Therefore, we did not, and therefore throw it on there and have faith. And when you're low prone in the moon dust in Arizona, it does not kick up dirt. The A1 will.
Yeah.
If you ever fire them at night, boy, that is a great flash mitigator.
Yeah. So your muzzle device doesn't have to have a bunch of exciting adjectives in its name to be good.
No, and muzzle brakes on ARs, just no. Just no.
I think we're going to touch on that a little later on.
No. All right. And these two are together, so we're going to ask them together.
Okay.
Why not a different round than 5.56? This comes up a lot. Rusty S. What are your opinions on alternative calibers for the AR-15? 300 black, 6.5, 458, as a replacement for 5.56. Do you think that 5.56 is the ideal caliber? And if you do not think that the AR-15 is the platform, should we be looking at a different gun? I'm kind of paraphrasing.
Okay.
The second question is, Joseph R., on the door kicker rifle, whatever, why 5.56 and not 300 black? I do suppose 300 is not financially sound in a match environment. Match environment and ammunition cost was never part of this conversation.
No, in fact, we kind of deliberately chose to build the rifles to use 75 grain 5.56, which is expensive.
Well, it's a 1-in-8 twist barrel. It'll use pretty much anything. But we did kind of orient ourselves around heavier, longer bullets.
That was the plan was this: if you use this rifle, you use it with 75s to get the most terminal effect and the best long range.
I wouldn't say better. I would say improved, because there's other cartridges now that may be better terminal effect, but you definitely get better ballistics.
Right.
Okay.
But that's beside the point. Can I just be frank about the cartridges? I don't know that 5.56 is ideal, but I think these are all within like 2% of the best that's out there, and it just doesn't matter at that point. 5.56 works really well. One of these fancy new ones may work a little half of a hair's breadth better, but it's not worth me trying to delve into all the changes that are involved in a new cartridge, getting the buffer systems tuned exactly right, getting the barrel profiles exactly right. All of this has been really well figured out on the 5.56, and that to me is much more important than trying to squeeze 1 or 2% more efficiency out of the cartridge.
I feel the same way, and I actually think 5.56 and 5.45 fall in the same category. We had a question a while back where I said I'd like one at 5.45 because I like the cartridge.
Yeah.
But 5.45 in this country doesn't have the development cycle that 5.56 does. 5.56 has been through a long, iterative development cycle, and there's been a lot of improvements in 5.56, and as long as you don't restrict yourself to only 55 grain M193 or 62 grade M855, as long as you're willing to look outside of that box for whatever your goals are, hunting, self-defense, etc., 5.56 has a wide variety of projectile choices, velocity choices, all of which can do incredible things, can increase your penetration, can increase your wounding capabilities, can increase your terminal ballistics at range, can increase your wind defeating at range, can shoot flatter, can shoot all these things, better ballistic coefficient. The reality is like what you said. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that to a degree. All these things, as long as you are running 5.56 and the projectile and the ammunition choice of 5.56 within the parameters you need to use it within, all these other cartridges become just a bunch of noise and background garbage. 300 black, 6.5. What matters is hitting stuff.
Yeah. And
hitting stuff with a projectile that's effective for your goal.
If I had a dedicated suppressed rifle, then I would seriously look at 300.
You're still giving up a big...
I'm not saying I would use it.
Now, he did say door kicker, so he's talking close range here. But when you start dealing with 300 blackout, you start dealing with this rainbow arc.
Yeah. I didn't say I'd necessarily use it.
Yeah.
But I'd be willing to look at it.
Yep.
I'd consider it.
You are giving up your ability to hit something far away quite a bit.
Okay.
Reliably.
Sure.
People go, oh, I can hit stuff at 1,200 yards with my 300. Yes, you can. On a flat range, on a mat, sitting there knowing your dope, knowing your holdover, and then firing 7 rounds until you get the hit, you can do that. But when everything's dynamic, and it's like shooting at 5 yards, hit that thing at 300, a flat shooting, light recoiling cartridge like 5.56
Helps.
is huge.
Yeah.
And the minute you have to go, oh, I have to hold up because he's at 300 yards, you've either messed up the distance elevation guesstimate in your head, there's a wind that's causing you a problem. All these things factor in that doesn't happen immediately, whether it's on the clock or in the field. And when you have 5.56 or 5.45 and you can go, he's within 300 yards, hold the target, pull the trigger, that matters more than any of this other stuff.
Yeah, which actually also calls back a bit to our first question on the 11.5 barrels.
It does.
At a certain point, you start losing that capability.
You do.
But the one other thing I would add to this is that the money does have an impact. Because that 1% of better effectiveness you're going to get out of, the 267 whammo blaster is you can also get that same increase in effectiveness by running another 1,000 rounds of 5.56 through your rifle this month in practice. That in a perfect world, the ammo just lands on your doorstep as a gift from the gods. In the real world, you have to pay for practice ammo, and you're going to be better off practicing more than trying to get it out of an extra special cartridge.
And you're also probably more likely to be better off with a flat shooting light recoiling cartridge as well. That's my point. Yeah. You can get more out of your training time, whether it's competition.
Yeah. Well, some of these cartridges are light recoiling, flat shooting.
This harkens back to some of the conversations we had on PNS, on primary and secondary, regarding overmatch and the potential switch back to 308 and all this stuff.
Give up so much doing that.
Everybody focuses on gear. And in my opinion, the focus is improperly paced there. As long as the gear is well thought out and good, what was Stone rifles are, and the cartridge is sufficient, which 5.56 is, then you need to put your emphasis somewhere else. Which is skill, training.
Here's an interesting way to look at this. What if you still had an AR? What if your AR was in 222 Remington? That's what they base the cartridge off of. There are some European countries where that's what you're allowed because you're not allowed a military cartridge. I think, I can't quote 222 ballistics off the top of my head, but I'm sure it's not nearly as good as, 237 whammo blaster. But it would work just fine, and nobody at the other end of the gun would ever know the difference. And honestly, the guy shooting the gun would probably never know the difference if he didn't pull the thing out and look and check what the cartridge was.
True. Yep. Yeah, totally. So, skill and marksmanship overall, 5.56 and 5.45, especially with projectile choice, are fine.
Yep. And
there was no reason to re-engineer the wheel.
Yeah.
I got a couple more questions that are all the same, so we're going to ask them together, and then we'll answer them.
All right.
Mauserdude, what would Stoner do rifle? Any provision for bayonet or melee options? And Dylan M, does a rifle bayonet still have a use on the battlefield?
No.
There's not a provision for it. The answer to both is no. There is not a provision for a bayonet on the What Was Stoner rifle. Right. There are provisions for melee. You can strike people with a muzzle device. You can strike people with the butt. There are a lot of things you can do with that. In fact, I would refer you once again to Green Eyes Black Rifles by Viking Tactics. He talks quite a bit about using the muzzle device without a bayonet to do really nasty things. That is a big piece of metal that can do horrible things.
It's true. Concentrated thing that you're
But let's go back to bayonet. First of all, a bayonet mount, no, don't want it. We're not going to stick a knife on the end of that gun. It's a pencil barrel anyway.
Yeah, we just spent a lot of time and money free floating the barrel to hang half a pound bayonet on it.
Let me hang a butcher blade on it. But on top of that, let's just go to the bayonet thing. This came up a lot. People were like, what's the deal? No bayonet. And I started thinking in my memory banks, and I know.
Well, I got a good anecdote for you.
I know. I already hear the comments. There was the British guys that mounted their bayonets in Iraq and ran over the hill and scared the guys away. And there was this one other guy
I'm pretty sure that's because they had L85A1s that wouldn't actually shoot.
Well, there's a lot to be said for it, to use the French word, of volant. They run over the field with a knife on the end of a gun screaming, depending on how hard, dedicated.
You got to be pretty hardcore to stand up to that.
Yeah, this sucks, I'm leaving, right? Yeah. So, the knife on the end may or not have made it relevancy. There's probably a couple bayonet kills that happened in Iraq or Afghanistan. Sure, got it. The percentile of those things be effective, besides the the percentage of times they've been useful versus the percentage of time that they're dangling on your belt or on the end of your gun in an unuseful way is way disproportionate.
It's within a rounding error of 0.
Exactly.
Yeah. So interestingly, I was just doing some reading from stuff 150 years ago.
Okay.
The U.S. was looking at adopting a trowel bayonet.
A shovel,
because they didn't actually have an entrenching tool.
Right.
And a guy came up with a combination trowel and bayonet. And a couple of the officers who are initially evaluating this in 1868 wrote that their official opinion was, with the advent of the breech-loading rifle, the bayonet is obsolete on the battlefield. We're not willing to completely throw it away until we have like some first-hand data showing that we don't really use these things. But since we don't have a muzzle loader anymore, you can just load a new cartridge. You don't need the bayonet. Thus, the fact that the trowel makes a not as good bayonet as a real bayonet, we don't care, because the bayonet's not really important anyway at this point.
The shovel's more important.
That was 1868.
68.
Yeah.
So then you still see bayonet charges in World War
Now, they all died at machine guns.
Bayonet charges in World War I weren't very effective, were
Here's
they?
the thing. There are still uses for bayonet. They're just not battlefield uses. If you're guarding prisoners, or you're guarding some installation,
Right.
or you're that, the kind of goofy-looking, very serious trooper on guard at the Tower of London with the gigantic hat, the bayonet gives you an intermediate level of force. It's not there because you're going to stab a tourist with it when you run out of ammo. It's there because it lets you, you can say, stop doing that. I said stop doing that. I'm going to stab you. And then you can go to shooting.
Doesn't just pointing the gun have the same effect, and or striking them with the muzzle device and breaking a bunch of teeth? When people are swallowing their teeth, they're not that cool anymore. It's not fun anymore.
But people don't think about getting hit with a muzzle device.
Man, that would suck.
You put a knife on the end of that rifle,
So
and
it's a psychological effect.
And it's a valid one, but it's not on the battlefield, really. It's, like I said, guarding prisoners. You don't want them to get up and run away, but you don't really want to have to go from nothing to shooting them. You can display a nice, intimidating level of force with a very sharp, pokey thing on the end of the rifle. I think that's what they're still useful for, and I don't plan to do any of that with my stoner rifle, so I don't really care to have a bayonet on it.
So outside of those very interesting exceptions, the reality is it has no use on the battlefield, hasn't for a long time, and it absolutely has no purpose on a what would stoner do modernized AR-15 whatsoever.
I'd rather have backup iron sights.
Oh, I'd agree with that.
I'd rather have a forward assist.
I would agree with that too. It is probably the most obsolete thing we could have put on the gun.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we might as well have put like a patch box on the buttstock.
All right, matches and competition. We're now off what would stoner for a while.
Finally. All right.
Phil C. For the 2 and 3 gun matches, are there any rules or restrictions on using handloads? No. Nope. Handloads are cool.
Well, except that pretty much every time we run into someone who has an
have
ammo-related problem, it's because they loaded it themselves.
If you're capable of actually making ammunition that reloads and functions successfully in your gun reliably,
Go for it.
have at it. There's no rules against it, and there are people that reload successfully at the match. But there's a lot of people that when I watch their guns jam, I'm like, bad reloads. Really common.
There are no power factor levels either in 2-gun.
No, but you need to be able to hit the target.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you need to be able to cycle your rifle.
Right.
In theory, if there were a lot of prizes and there was no power factor thing, there would be people who would be tweaking their ammo to be as light as possible. But we don't have prizes, so we don't have to worry about that.
You see that in cowboy action shooting or SAS?
Yeah.
They have a power factor, but it's so incredibly low it doesn't matter, and they never check.
Yeah.
There are guys that shoot in single action shooting society or CAS, cowboy action shooting, where the cartridge is loaded so lightly that once in a while the bullet doesn't leave the barrel. But for the most part, I'm not kidding. You can see the bullet hit the target, bounce off, and then roll to your feet. And it's because they have no recoil.
Right.
It's actually more dangerous because when they're in between that and when the bullet actually detonates and explodes on the target for a piece of lead, sometimes they come back with force because they bounce instead of just splatter.
Yeah.
But no restrictions at 2-gun or 3-gun for hand loading, as long as your projectiles are not armor piercing or something like that. John O., what tools and spare parts do you guys take to matches to fix your guns and gear if something breaks?
I don't know. What is in your trunk?
He uses whatever I got because you never bring jack.
Not every once in a while. I've had something that we needed.
More often than not, you're digging through my bag.
Yeah.
I don't bring a lot. If it's an AR-15, these are rare circumstances. I will bring a complete bull carrier group.
You just kind of leave that in a shooting bag, don't you?
Well, yeah, but in armored, we're going to Tiger Valley.
Oh, yeah.
At Tiger Valley, you have to have it on you. What I'm going to have is a complete bull carrier group with the bolt, the whole thing, in my bag. Do they break often? No. As in, almost never. But when you're at a 2-day event, of anything that could break on your AR, it's one of the parts in that bulk carrier group.
It's a 16-hour drive each way to get there.
Yeah.
It's not worth having that experience destroyed when you could,
A simple cleaning kit. For the ARs, I typically bring an Otis with a little the pull-through. And on the AK, I use the standard Soviet AK cleaning kit, the little doodle with because that thing,
everything it needs to.
Boy, the Soviets got that. The Russians got that thing right.
Yeah.
That little tool, the one that has all the cleaning parts in it.
Fits in the butt trap.
Oh yeah, that plus the cleaning rod, you can take your entire gun apart to everything off, completely stripped, and back together with that thing.
Yeah.
I wish the AR had that equivalent. There are some tools like wrenches and stuff that are like that for now. But really on an AR, a full bolt carrier group. On an AK, the regular AK cleaning kit. And for any other gun, just an Otis pull-through. That's it. Maybe, and a screwdriver.
Cleaning rod's a good thing to have. A cleaning rod long enough for your barrel, so if you get a stuck case.
Even a collapsible one.
Yeah.
Which is another thing I normally keep at long matches. It's a little collapsible cleaning rod that's in my bag. All right, Dana G. I am just starting into competition. Congratulations.
Cool.
And was curious, do you guys know of any good phone apps to use for a shot timer? All the actual timers I look at are pretty expensive.
No, all the free ones we've tried haven't really worked reliably.
They haven't. Some of them work, some of them don't. There's a lot of free ones out there. They're for Android and iPhone. Both of us are using iPhones.
They work sometimes.
They do. I don't have a specific, maybe with an external mic. We know I never tried hooking up my external mic. Like there are little boom mics you can put on. Maybe that would help.
If it were me, and in fact, it was, I would just buy a regular shot timer.
They're about $150.
They're not that expensive anymore, and then you're not endangering your phone. If you're trying to use a phone as a shot timer, there's a decent chance at some point you're going to drop it. It's going to ram the gun into it. You're going to go prone with it, clip to your belt, and accidentally land on top of it.
I have a nice crack in my screen right now from dropping it in the field.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would just, a regular shot timer does the job really well.
And by the way, a PACT or a packed shot timer, you spend $150 on it, it will last you your life.
Yeah.
And it's a dedicated device that you can clip on your belt. It has all the cool features available with a couple buttons.
Yeah.
If you can't afford it, you just can't. Try them. They're free. Just download them and try them, I guess. But really, if you can buy a gun, and I'm not trying to downplay money, I get it. But if you can buy a gun, you could probably buy a $150 pack timer at some point, and it's worth the investment.
Yeah.
All right. Samuel H. Is it considered discourteous to participate in two-gun in the heavy class or any other class while using a compensator because of the extra noise? I've attended matches where some people get bent out of shape at how loud someone else's rifle is.
I consider it annoying, but I wouldn't. And I will give someone grief for it in a somewhat lighthearted manner.
We rib them. It's not against the rules, and people do it. In fact, we've had these awful cookie cutter things
God.
that 3 stages away, it was destroying the audio on our camera, shaking the camera lens.
Yeah.
3 bays away from a 14.5-inch AR.
Yeah.
ARs, by the way, with a muzzle brake are the worst offenders. Heavy class, like a 308 with a muzzle brake, they're loud.
But usually, I mean, the offending thing is usually a relatively short barrel.
Short, yes.
And people usually don't put like 10-inch barrels on 308s.
But a short-barreled AR
Yeah.
with a muzzle brake on it, specifically, some of them are worse than others.
Cookie brake or one of those JP tank brakes.
Earth and kidney stone shattering.
Yeah.
And when you shoot them inside of a barrier or around walls, they're even worse. There are certain circumstances where they do not help you as the shooter because they're so disruptive to you, the shooter. Never mind the people around you, that they actually disrupt your sight picture.
Yeah.
So is it considered discourteous? I'm going to say, yeah, it's considered discourteous.
Yeah.
Is it stopped? Is it prevented? Are there lots of people still doing it? Yes. However, I find them infinitely annoying.
The thing is, they do produce a benefit for the really serious guys that will take fractions of a tenth off of your split times. But two-gun is a little bit less nitpicky on that level of detail. We try to put in enough physical activity and enough unorthodox shooting challenges that difference in split times is irrelevant overall.
Yep.
It's only in a 3-gun stage where there is literally nothing except hose these 87 targets.
And they're all 10 yards away.
And then your split times actually add up to something substantial. Then there's a practical benefit to having it on there. But I think you do a very deliberate job of trying to discourage them through stage design.
I do.
And
And we
it's
have
also
a lot.
fun to make a stage where you have to shoot inside a barrel or a tunnel.
But we also have a lot of shot-to-shot migration and target transitions. And the minute you have to transition from target A to target B, the muzzle brake's advantage has been lost.
Yeah.
It's gone. So, and the increased flash and dust signature is also a problem.
Yeah.
I would highly advise you to not have one. I really would.
Didn't we just talk about like the best AR muzzle device being an A2 flash hider?
Still is.
Yeah.
Jevidar B. Did you guys do another shotgun special event at 2GACME for 2017? Nope,
No.
we didn't. Been really busy with InRange. He's really busy with Forgotten Weapons and InRange. The schedule at the club is pretty booked most of the time.
It's kind of a weird one where that's only feasible when there's like an extra Tuesday in the month.
Or a fifth Saturday or something like that.
fifth Saturday.
And then even when we do it, the turnout's quite low.
Which is kind of fun, actually.
Yeah.
That's a feature, not a bug.
We'll have another one again. It's not because we are anti-shotgun. I'm not. It's just not high on the priority list, and we'll do it another time.
I am anti-shotgun, and I really enjoyed that match.
I'm not.
The special rules, the rules you came up with for shotgun really do make it a totally different event.
Yeah, I'll toot that horn. I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think the rules we have around the shotgun match of 2 GACME actually return the practicality to the shotgun that was lost in 3 gun.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more fun. It's not just a reloading challenge.
Bunch of AK questions.
All right.
Mitchell C. My first AK, 7.62 or 5.45?
5.45.
5.45, absolutely. 100% agree.
My first AK was a 7.62, and I wish I could go, and I got several of them, and then I got a bunch of mags, and I got a bunch of ammo, and all the accessories and ancillary stuff, and I really wish I could go back in time and change that to 5.45 now.
I'm gonna add a little nuance to this question. I'm gonna say 5.45 or 5.56.
Yeah.
People think 5.56 AKs are sacrilegious. They are not. They are fine if you get the right. If you go quality, if you get an arsenal and the right magazines or whatever.
By the way, there are a number of countries that have their entire military has adopted a 5.45 AK.
They went NATO, but they stuck with the AK platform. So 5.56 or 5.45. 7.62 is cool. Nothing wrong with it in terms of having fun.
Yeah.
But it is an obsolescent cartridge.
Yeah.
With bad ballistics.
Yeah.
In terms of hitting stuff far away. So 5.45, 5.6, way less recoil, way flatter shooting, way more fun to shoot. 5.56 gives you all the advantages of the U.S. market and mass production. 5.45 can be challenging.
A little bit.
So
we still have pretty good cheap availability of 5.45.
But somewhere in the
change.
somewhere
that will never change for 5.56.
Somewhere in the 22 caliber high velocity realm.
Yeah.
Levi C. What rifles will each of you be running at Red October? Unfortunately, I'm going to miss it the year due to work requirements. Best of luck to you. Well, that's easy. We got them here.
But I sure hope they're not 7.62 after that last question.
They are not 7.62. Why don't you show what you're
All
going
right.
to use too?
So I am going to have this guy, my Valmet M78, now with side folding. If I can. It's a really stiff button. Now with side folding tube stock.
In 5.56.
5.56.
5.56.
So the Finnish military only used these things in 7.62.
Yep.
But Valmet sold them commercially in 5.56. In fact, interestingly, 5.56 is the cheapest and most available Valmet on the U.S. market. The 7.62 ones are stupidly more expensive.
It's a beautiful rifle. I fired it today,
man,
in fact.
I have gamed it up with this rifle, really.
Well, you've got great sights.
Yep.
Great aperture sights.
Yep.
Aperture sights. Aperture iron sights are an entirely different game than regular notch sights. It's got a decent trigger once you get used to it. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Everything about it's high class manufacture. It was definitely accurate. We were tagging a mini Q at 200 in the field, no problemo.
Iron sights.
Yeah. It's bitchin'.
The wood stock is actually probably slightly better for shooting than this folder.
Yeah.
This folder has just a tiny bit of rattle to it.
Yeah.
Not that important, but the folder just looks so much cooler than the wood stock. The wood stock was never a military thing. It's strictly for commercial.
And we're actually leaving tomorrow to do this.
Yeah.
So
yes, less than 24 hours.
Yep.
And I will be wearing cool guy camo too because
you will.
Because I like that.
And I am using this beast. This
That
beast
thing is a beast.
We've
too.
talked about this, and I will do this. I am not sweeping Ian. We've talked about this. This is almost part for part, exactly replicated to a number of internet-sourced Russian Alpha Special Forces AKs.
What you're trying to tell me is under all that is an AK.
Under this is a standard Arsenal 104 FR that I won at last year's Red October match. And I said there, I'm like, I'm going to turn this into the Special Forces Alpha AK that we saw some of in Syria and other places. Almost everything on this gun is Zenitco, with the exception of the stuff that's American. Russians use extensive amount of Western and American equipment in their special forces. Ops Corps helmets, hearing protection, EOTechs. However, the Zenitco laser, Zenitco rail system, Zenitco stock. This is Zenitco rail. This is a Krebs safety. However, they use those. I've seen them in pictures. I've got pictures proving all of this. They also have their own. Got it. The advanced charging or improved charging handle, that's Russian.
Improved is just a giant lump of plastic on the charging.
Yeah, it is. The vertical grip here is also Zenitco. So this
doubles as an Apple core.
Yes, or you can hit someone with it. But it's actually cut so that you can do the magazine changes. It's actually thought through.
Yeah.
So this is almost part for part exactly an Alpha AK, and it's in 5.45, and this is
12 pounds of it.
All 12 pounds of it, and this is what I'm going to be using at Red October.
That's going to be pretty cool. I'm really excited to see how you do with that.
On that note, I'm also using it in the armored division, and I have acquired, not here on this video, I actually have a full Ratnik. It's called Ratnik, 6B45, I think it is called. It is their full Russian armor. It's the legitimate Russian load-bearing vest with Kevlar and Russian plates.
Cool.
So I'm wearing legitimate Russian armor, as you would see on Alpha, with an Alpha AK, and I'm shooting it armored.
Sweet.
So should be interesting.
We are not actually going to be competing directly, because you're in AK Open.
Yep.
Or armored, and I'm in AK Light, which is 5.45 or 5.56, but only iron sights.
Two questions of a very similar nature here.
All right.
Joe S. and Zach D. Is there going to be a what would Kalashnikov do project, and what would a Kalashnikov do project look like? What would the resulting rifle look like? I don't think
really isn't going to be one.
I think what you just saw is the closest to that.
Kind of, yeah.
This is the modernization of the AK. Take heavy rifle, glue a bunch of force multiplying things onto it, make now heavier rifle, but still capable.
Right.
If you're willing to lug that 12-pound rifle around, it really will do everything a 6-pound what would Stoner do rifle will do.
Yeah.
It does all the same things at double the weight.
Yeah.
I think if you were to have a what would Kalashnikov do project, I don't think it would be called Kalashnikov per se. You would look at things like what's going on over in Russia with things like the AK-12 project. But you know what? This is the United States. That's a hard-ass project.
Yeah.
We're not getting those bits.
No.
Getting these Zenico bits to modernize my AK-74 into a alpha build is hard enough and not cheap. If you wanted to do something like an AK-12, unless something like the Kalashnikov concern starts doing something here in the States, that's a very hard project for us to approach.
Well, the other thing is the AK has pretty much remained very true to its original intent, all the way through the ones that are in use now, where at least our feeling was that the AR-15 has deviated greatly from its original intent. And that gave us the opportunity to try and do a course correction of what if it hadn't? What if it stayed true to its original intent?
The AK really has.
It has.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a very simple, very durable, pull trigger, shoot stuff, just works.
Still a great gun.
It is.
It's just you just take a weight penalty for it.
Yeah. Now, we are doing some other cool series that I think people will enjoy more than they would a what would Stoner or what would Kalashnikov.
So there's stuff coming on that. So don't. The projects that are coming are just as cool, believe me. Matt C. Is the Kalashnikov market dying? There's no reference around this. So when I read this, I took it as in the United States. Now I'm putting my own paraphrase on this. Is the Kalashnikov market dying? Let's just do that. Is the Kalashnikov market dying in the United States?
No, I don't know that the Kalashnikov, it's not the size of the AR market, but it never has been.
It never will be.
I know there was some talk in recent years about trying to rejuvenate it with all American-made stuff.
Jim Fuller's doing some of that kind of work with some of his projects.
I think he's doing it well, but some of the, I want to say Century was putting together some...
The rack or whatever they call it.
I don't know all the details, but what I do know is you can now find parts kits for sale with cut American-made receivers.
Yeah.
And that tells me that someone's quality control was so horrendous that the only thing they could do was try and cut their losses by chopping the receivers and selling the parts with no warranty.
You said that I didn't. I didn't even know about that.
I don't know the details.
Rifle Dynamics is making some really high-end American-made stuff that's incredible and that's impressive, and I would encourage you to go look at their site about some of what they're doing.
I haven't handled any of his. I would really like to do it. That would be an interesting thing to take a look at.
Fuller guns are awesome.
Yeah, they are.
I don't think the market's dying. You know, to use it as an as a computer comparison, because that's the world I live in. The Kalashnikov market's Apple, not in terms of being Apple in terms of what they do, but in terms of the share.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a diehard percentage of people that love the Kalashnikov for good reason. It's a great rifle to love, but in America, man, we're the AR guys.
It's just not really set up to be as interchangeable and modular as the AR.
It's also harder to manufacture.
It's harder to improve on.
It's harder to improve on. It's harder to manufacture, and it's definitely harder to assemble.
Yeah.
So the AR's got a lot going for it in that regard, and that's the reason the AR so dominates, besides being America's rifle.
Yeah.
All right, so we're getting close to the end this year. I don't know if we're at an hour yet or not.
It seems like it went rather quickly.
Technical things. Daniel T. For those looking to build their own firearms parts kits, the AR-15 seems to be the clear choice for a beginner. So what would you recommend as an intermediate level build for someone interested in more advanced builds?
Well, the AR-15 is a nice warm-up for actually building a gun from a parts kit. The AR-15 is just Legos.
AR-15 is not building a gun, it's assembly.
Yeah.
If you're doing something like finishing an 80%, I'm like, all right, you're doing something.
That is something.
But if you're just taking all the components, and I'm not trying to demean your comment here, Daniel, but your question, but if you're building it from all the parts, we didn't build
stoner guns. We just bought the parts and put them together.
We aggregated the components together that we thought were interesting on the market, that were modern in their approach to the problem, and then combined them.
So I have a bit of experience years ago with actually building parts kits into live guns. I built 1919, built some AKs, built a few other things. That market is dead today. The day of that project has come and gone.
The garage gun?
Yeah. And the reason is, largely the reason is barrels. They have instituted, and it's just an executive arbitrary decision, you cannot import military origin barrels. So it used to be that you could bring in a parts kit for an AK, and it would have everything except the receiver. And you could either buy a complete receiver and then do some riveting and complete the gun, or you could bend a flat, an 80% flat, do the bending, do the heat treating, do some welding, do some riveting. That's building a gun. But you could do that cost effectively. Today, you have to buy a new barrel. You then have to do your own, well, depending on what you buy, you may have to drill a gas port, extractor cutout, pinholes to locate your rear sight block, your front sight block, your gas block, all that stuff. And you're going to end up spending a substantially larger amount of money doing that than you would just buying a complete gun. A lot of the other parts kits that were easily buildable have kind of come and gone. 1919 parts kits are $1,500 or more, and you can buy a complete one of those for $2,000, probably, definitely for $2,500. There are a lot of submachine gun parts kits out there, but those have always been very difficult. Those are advanced level projects
because they got to go to a closed bolt.
They have to go to closed bolt, and you have to replace this fixed firing pin with some sort of floating firing pin, a striker system or a hammer system. Those are all challenging builds and projects.
At risk of promoting our own content, I'm going to go ahead and say that if you really wanted an intermediate difficulty build, easier than an AK, look at our project where we built the Set-Me-Alls.
Yeah, that's actually one of the few ones out there that has the support, the tooling support, and the parts kits. And because those things don't appear to be available really on the commercial market, I know HMG did a small number of them.
Yeah.
But it's not like, for some reason, Century hasn't picked up 10,000 of those kits and cranked out crappy versions of them.
It is interesting, though, that it's easier than an AK.
I would put it about equivalent to
an AK. All right, fair enough.
Different skills.
Yeah.
You don't need to do any riveting on
this. But that's one you could start doing now, and it is definitely intermediate level. It's not advanced level; it's intermediate level. Yeah.
And I would say an AK is still an intermediate level project, but it's not cost effective in a way like it used to be.
Not when you can go buy a quality AK for around $1,200 or whatever.
Oh, you can buy a reasonably decent AK for half that.
Not when you can buy a pretty good AK for around $1,200.
Okay.
I'm kidding a little bit. I'm a fan of the Arsenal guns, so those are the ones I've never had a problem with.
Sure, but you can go buy an old Romanian Wasser.
Yeah,
$600 or $700 probably. I haven't been looking, but
it won't pass the mud test.
It's fine. Neither will your super tactical.
Oh my gosh, that Russian Alpha gun in the mud would be just horrific. Yeah, agreed. All right, here's a technical one. I don't know if you're gonna have input on this, and I don't think I have good input on this either.
Okay.
Andreas N, which cryptocurrency should we all use?
I have no idea.
You know what my answer to that is? You know why your answer is? You know why your answer is? I have no idea.
Because there isn't a good one.
Because unless you're a super hacker bleeding edge and willing to take on a lot of risk, the answer is none. People keep asking us to do Bitcoin or whatever on the channel. I haven't messed with it yet. That is an incredibly
convoluted system to get into.
It's changing, and it's constantly evolving, and there's a whole bunch of cryptocurrency, and there's a whole bunch of them competing with one another, and there's legality that hasn't been addressed yet, whether you care about the legality or not. There's legality that hasn't been addressed yet. There's tax law that hasn't been addressed yet. When you're running a business, these are all relevant concerns.
Yeah.
There's hacks that have happened. There's Bitcoin mining going on. All this stuff. Real interesting, real bleeding edge. If you're a hacker, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying don't play in that world, and there might be very well be money to be made.
Yeah.
But if you're going to ask me which cryptocurrency should we all use, all being that word, I'm going to say none right now, because all implies people that are not those people.
Yeah.
And they're going to get hurt bad. That's what I think.
I wouldn't argue with any of that.
All right. Miscellaneous. Scott G, what is your Grail gun?
I honestly don't really think I have a Grail gun.
How could that be? You have
the problem is I have exposure to too much stuff. They're
all Grail guns.
I guess in one sense, there are guns that I'd love to have that I know are completely unavailable because I know that three exist.
And that's okay. A Grail gun.
But the thing is, I'm not super interested in getting one of those because most of the time, the reason that I'm interested in those is because they're super weird and obscure, and I know for a fact that I would not be able to shoot them. So, do I really have any interest in trying to acquire one, knowing that? What else do I actually get out of it? Maybe I'm getting a little bit jaded and cynical.
Is this coming from a man that has a Moss 36 submachine gun and a shell shot?
It's a Moss 38 submachine gun.
I said
and two show shots. Thank you very much. Not that I have any of these. I said
36. That's the bolt gun. I know I'm going to get crucified for that. Moss 38, but that one is literally the ammunition's unobtainium right now.
Yes.
So you did get some Grail guns that are kind of weird.
Okay.
I'm not giving you grief. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying.
Well, the thing is, when people say Grail gun, they what they mean, or at least what I interpret that as being, is this is the one gun that everything in my collection or in my practice or in my life is building towards. And once I get it, all will be complete.
Oh, well, that's not going to
And
happen. There's always going to be
exactly.
some other gun.
Exactly. I don't see one gun where I will get it and then no longer have anywhere else to go.
Well,
That's what I see as the Grail
All right,
gun.
I see it as the one gun that you really, really would want to have, and I don't see it as the only last gun, okay?
So for you, it's my G41.
No, actually it's not. Just like the Holy Grail, which does not exist, it's another thing that I could never obtain. It would be a PKM.
Oh. Yeah.
If you could be like, there's one gun you can have, and you can't buy another gun after this. You can keep what you got, but you can't buy another gun ever again. But you can have one. I get a PKM.
Or if it was even just everything is normal, you can go on buying guns, but you can pick one and just have it appear today.
It would be a PKM.
Can't argue with that.
So that'd be my Grail. Kevin B, since you've been recommending first aid and trauma courses as well as fitness, you have more on this to say than others, than I do. Do you have tips for non-firearm self-defense, hand-to-hand or otherwise? We were talking about this earlier a little bit. You've taken some stuff.
A little bit. I've done a little bit of Krav Maga.
Okay.
I would say, yeah, do some of it.
Pick one.
Honestly, I don't think it really matters a whole lot. I think at least at the beginning level, getting the bodily awareness and the coordination and just the understanding of, I think for a lot of people, it starts off with, I've never been punched in my life.
It's a rude awakening.
Right. And any serious, legitimate self-defense class, anything that's not just dance with martial origins.
No, something that literally does get into sparring.
I would say pick one where you're going to get punched.
I think you could even pick just standard American boxing.
Yeah. Any of this stuff, I think this is kind of like our cartridge debate.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm the typical average guy who has no experience with this. I'm going to take a class and I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do a couple times a week maybe for 3 or 4 years. And I'm going to become fairly proficient at one of these skills. I think at that point, which skill it is doesn't make a whole lot more difference than 5.56 versus 5.45 versus 273 wham and boomer. The differences are going to be mild enough that in any practical situation where you need it, if it's boxing or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Krav Maga or Karate, the opponent you have is either going to be so well practiced that you're screwed, or more likely, you're going to kick their ass because they have absolutely no more experience other than being a bully or a thug.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I was thinking about this. So for example, Mike Tyson, you put him up against someone who's never had any training at all. Okay, we know how it's going to go. You put him up against someone who's just dabbled in BJJ. What's going to happen? He's going to win.
Yeah.
You put him up against someone that's like middle grade BJJ. What's going to happen? He's going to
gonna
win.
win.
You put him up against an expert BJJ. Now
there's a challenge.
Now you've got an interesting debate,
Right.
And this is where the whole MMA thing comes from and all
Yeah.
that stuff. I can tell you from my interactions with South Narc Shivworks, Craig Douglas, and ECQC, that the thing that I saw, and I've had minimal, not a lot. It's not something I pursued heavily, I have to admit. I pursued the gym more than I have martial arts club classes. The thing that seems to have the most relevancy is BJJ.
That makes sense. Most of the stuff ends up dirty and nasty on the ground.
And BJJ is that. And the people that excel at ECQC with them almost always have a BJJ background.
Okay.
Even other guys that have other background, even boxing is a good example. The minute the gun goes south and you're on the ground and you're wrestling over the gun, boxing's out and it's becoming a wrestling event, and BJJ tends to kind of be overwhelming.
So maybe what we can say is take whatever you like, but make sure you treat it as a self-defense combat activity and not as a sport. Recognize that whatever artificial rules are put in place by whatever discipline you choose, those rules are not relevant if you get mugged at 2 a.m. in an alley. And so keep that in your mind when you're practicing and don't be bound by those rules when you don't need to be.
Very similar to competitive shooting. You go to a competitive shooting event, and it's a competitive event, but you can put and use it to get martial skills out of it should you want them.
Right.
If you go there and your whole goal is to put on the biggest cookie cutter muzzle break and have the best split times, you're not getting that. But if you come there, and at the same time, if you come there with an Enfield Ishapur 2A1, you're not getting it either.
That's like being the guy who's really super good at Tai Chi.
Yeah, if you... right? I'm the best at that. But if you come out there with a reasonable piece of equipment and your goal is to do well, exceed at your own skill set and improve yourself, and in the process make sure that you're not making specifically bad mistakes, you can probably get that out of a lot of different martial arts training environments. Hey, how funny.
I'm one of these guys that thinks the 80%, you get 80% proficiency with 20% of the effort, and then getting from 80% proficiency to 100 requires many times more effort. Go for the 80. That's so much, I think a lot of people try and focus on what am I going to eventually get from going from 98 to 100% in a particular skill level, and they try and pick what do I need to start with at 0 to make sure that I've got that little thing at the very top. When the reality is, in most skills, we don't have the time or the inclination or we get bored and lose interest in things.
Yep.
Acquire that basic beginning skill where the learning curve is fast and easy, and you can do a lot, you can add a lot to your own capabilities with a relatively minimal amount of effort. Once you get to that point, if you're still really enthusiastic about it, then pick a specialty and really dedicate yourself to
Any
that.
skill set that you can get above average on, you are above average.
Right. Yeah.
Chances are that it's something you engage in something against someone with, or in competition against someone with.
You know what the problem is?
Unless
with
they're
that?
also above average, guess what? They're below your skill
You're
set.
going to win.
Yeah.
You know what the problem is with that? We live in an era with social media and easy access to other people talking about what their capabilities are.
Yeah, and you see a bunch of people
And-
exemplified that are well above average. They're like God tier.
Right. You
Yeah.
see that in every specialty. And so if you go out there and you become, I'm a halfway decent boxer, and I'm a halfway decent handgun shooter, and I'm pretty good with a shotgun, and I'm above average with motorcycle stunts. But if you're not a professional at any one of those, you look at it and you're like, well, everybody out there in the world is better at everything than I am, because people really only publicize the stuff that they're super awesome at. And it can feel kind of worthless. And I think it's important to maintain a mindset that you are, if you're above average in a large number of individual skill sets, you are in fact quite rare in the community at large, and it's something to be proud of and something that you should actively try for.
Even if you're not specifically expert in any of them.
Exactly. In fact, you can't be an expert in more than one or two of them without losing the ability to have the time and the focus to be decent at a lot of others.
Yeah, there's a couple interesting references to that. I think I'm paraphrasing, but I think it's a Heinlein quote. Specializations for insects.
Insects, yes.
If you've ever met a really hardcore, I mean serious, like deep hacker guy, socially interesting. Everything's give and take. Like these incredible skills, you lose something over here while gaining these.
Yes.
And if you become the best rifle shooter on earth, something else has fallen off.
We've noticed that just between the two of us.
Uh-oh.
Because I often look at your shooting skill set, and I think to myself, geez, if I wasn't spending 37 weeks a year, probably literally, traveling around and doing videos on weird esoteric guns, I would have the time to practice, and I could catch up to you in shooting skills.
Yep.
And I think you've done the same. We've been in conversations with other people where the conversation will turn into some weird prototype from 1927.
Yep.
And you're like, I've never even heard of that. If I wasn't spending all of my time doing this, I would have time to do more reading about old weird guns, and then I could be conversant with you on this. And everything is a trade-off.
It's funny though. I have to say this. One would think so. With the InRange project, you'd think my shooting skill would be getting better. It's gotten worse.
Yeah, because you're spending all your time.
I'm spending so much time
doing
editing videos and stuff that it's like time it would have been spent practicing.
Yeah, same here.
So your skill's getting better. Mine's not down, but it's not at its peak.
People who are in the firearms industry will recognize the truth in this. When you become a professional in the firearms industry, you stop shooting.
Well, we still shoot, but it's not.
Well, as a general rule, you stop having the time and ability to actually enjoy shooting if you work in the industry.
I don't shoot the volume that I did.
Yeah.
And so my peak level is not there. I'm diminished slightly. And you've gone up, and that's great. Yeah. That's a cool thing. So, I'm gaining other skills. I'm getting better at video editing. So, all right. It's the truth. All right. Hopefully I am. Maybe you're like, this editing sucks, but whatever. Okay. I think it's gotten better. So that's what matters, right?
All right. Let's move on.
Yeah. No, I'm wandering around here. Theodore W. How easy and or legal is it for a European as a tourist to come shoot firearms/NFA items in the U.S.?
Oh, crap. I have no idea.
It's extremely easy. You go to Vegas, you walk up to the counter and say, I'd like to shoot that machine gun and give them money.
Okay.
And then they give it to you and you shoot.
Actually, that's true. As someone visiting just to shoot, there's no legal issue at all. I don't know what the rules are regarding a non-citizen owning guns.
I don't know.
The ownership, I don't know.
This says to come shoot. So if you want to shoot firearms, you could come here and be like, hey, Ian, can I shoot that?
Yes.
And he's like, here, have fun. Plap, plap, plap. There it is. Boom. It's as easy as that. If you want to go shoot an NFA item, you have to be in a state where someone has them and you can. Or you can go to Vegas and rent a machine gun.
Yeah,
now,
that's true.
OPSEC applies. Here's what I would say. The world's a weird place. And there was a recent occurrence in which a now more than well-known hacker that was dealing with what's the ransomware kind of stuff.
Yeah.
More of an investigator than a malicious actor himself. Came to Vegas for DEF CON and then posted videos on the internet of him shooting machine guns. And it was the cause they used to detain him. They called it terrorist activity or something like that. And that was their cause to detain him. And then those charges, and now he's stuck here going through this debacle about code that he wrote that someone else did something wrong with. He didn't, someone else did it.
Yeah.
Here's my point. Come do it. Take your snappies, take your videos.
Don't post on Facebook, maybe.
Yeah. That would be my advice. Just thinking. That's all. People watch that stuff. And if you're going in and out of countries that's less friendly than this one, maybe a little bit of OPSEC applies. But it's,
don't wear your Punisher skull shirt through the customs check.
But it's completely legal to come here and do that. Come rent one, whatever. There's not a problem with that at all. All right. Mark S. This one we can go on forever, and I don't want to, but it's a good question. How did the derp of "it's just as good as" become so prevalent in the firearms community/industry?
Oh, that's easy.
Go.
The vast majority of people don't actually use their firearms for combatives.
Not even combatives, just anything.
Well, the purpose of something like a military-style firearm is to use in a military-style thing, actual self-defense, actual combat.
Well, we're not doing that. We're shooting two guns.
That's my point.
Okay.
Virtually nobody has actually done that outside of a group of veterans from Iraq and
I see
Afghanistan.
where you're going with this.
And so thus, people don't really have, first off, you don't have a lot of knowledge of what really works or not. A lot of what we have is like third-tier hand-me-down experiences. And there also isn't this drive for ruthless improvement. If I'm out there building houses, it's going to become very quickly apparent which methods of building a roof work and which don't. And I have a really good motivation to get the best roof design I can, so it doesn't fall down or so it doesn't blow off in a hurricane. But if I'm out there dealing with military-style firearms, the chances are nobody who buys one is actually going to use it for that original design purpose, and thus there isn't a whole lot of market pressure on me to determine what actually works versus what's good enough.
The risk of the statement you're making right now is I think that this is what I hear sometimes. The risk of that statement is that unless I was on a two-way range in hot combat, nothing I could ever learn could ever come out of anything unless I was there.
Okay, that's true.
That's not true either. So going and putting these guns through training events, through the right kind of match environments with the right mindset can give you, again, the 80%.
You can get it, but you have to actively try for it.
It doesn't have to be a two-way combat range to always come to conclusions. For example, on PNS, primary and secondary, who we've collaborated with, there are things that I've come to conclusions with at matches that we've discussed on the podcast. I could reference you them. Where I'm like, I did this and that, and it was at this event, and the timer did this, and I came to the conclusion I wanted my gun to be like that. And then this Chuck Pressburg, pretty impressive resume militarily, was talking about, I did the same thing with my gun. Two different places, two different reasons, two different causes. But stress, whether it's real stress, which is, of course, the more terrifying one of being in combat, versus the artificial stress of being on a clock in a match or training environment that dictates some level, it removes some of the artificiality, not all of it, can make you come to conclusions you wouldn't come to otherwise, which is just pop, 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 pop.
But here's the thing. The chances are you're never going to get physical reinforcement of that, or physical confirmation of that decision.
And let's say that's a good thing. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in order to come to appropriate conclusions, you have to be very honest with yourself about, does this work better or does it not? And if you just make a little bit of a psychological shift and you're like, I really like the way that particular thing looks. I bet it's just as good as this other thing that is maybe demonstrably better. Because you're never going to actually have to use it to shoot somebody most of the time, vast majority of people, it's very easy to convince yourself, going back to my original analogy, if I think this style of shingle looks great, but it actually dissolves in water, I am going to get immediate, very definite physical confirmation that that's a bad idea the next time it rains.
Why are these shingles made from sugar?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
The firearms, you don't get that reinforcement. So you can learn and you can develop skill, but it takes a more mental effort. You have to be honest and genuine in your training and your self-assessment.
I think you have to test these things in ways. You have to be willing to push these things and yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And there are venues to do that are not combat. If there weren't venues to do that were not combat, then you would never have training.
True.
Training
is real and is valuable if you do it right.
Training done right is real, and otherwise militaries would abandon training because they'd find that the cost effectiveness for any form of training was worthless, and they would just give you a gun, which, by the way, has happened in history. But for the most part, real first world countries don't do that. You go through all sorts of training, and then the reason for that is to prepare you the best you can in an artificial environment for reality.
Right.
When the rubber hits the road, that's when things come. We find out if that training worked and if the wheels fly off or not. Right? But I'm saying that there is real training, and it doesn't have to be combat to come to those conclusions.
Perhaps we can rephrase my original answer to be because very few people actually get training.
I would say very few people are willing to push themselves in uncomfortable situations and test things that they know they're not good at.
There you go. Yeah.
Because if all you do with your gun is shoot on a square range on a target, or shoot groups, or shoot tannerite, you're not going to have the same conclusions as someone that shoots 3-gun. And a 3-gun guy who only shoots 3-gun but never goes and shoots in the dirt with us under a exploded gas tank on a car, a 2-gun, isn't going to have the same conclusions that we have. The same guy that was under a burning car in Iraq in a 2-way directional combat zone is going to have even more knowledge than we would ever have doing that. So there's grades to that scale.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is the appeal to authority is another huge risk.
Yeah.
That guy's a cop, therefore he's a gun expert.
Yeah.
That guy was in Iraq, therefore he's an expert. You come to find out, and I'm not denigrating any veteran for any reason, but it's possible that guy in Iraq turned wrenches on a truck for the entire duration of his tour of duty, and therefore what he has to say about firearms handling and manipulations, or the speed of a red dot versus iron sights, may not be relevant.
It may not be bad. It may not be good. It may not.
But
he may not have gotten anything actual from being overseas.
His being deployed, I'm saying
Right.
he may have those skills anyway because of his training or other things he's done, but his time there did not garner any education above and beyond what he may have had otherwise.
However, most people are going to assume that he is an authoritative figure because of that veteran
Because
status.
because cop, therefore cop, good gun.
Yeah.
How many?
It's kind of demonstrably the opposite.
It is not military per se, but when you look at the law enforcement, how many really bad shooting things do you see?
Most of them.
Cops engage in, and that's because they don't pursue anything above the bottom level tier of the training requirements they are required to meet to retain their job.
Right.
Now there are exceptions.
Sure.
We have them coming to 2-gun. We got SWAT team guys that come to 2-gun. Guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Freaking awesome. They rock it, right? And then we've had other guys that are just cops. No offense. We have friends that are cops, PNSs, lots of cops, whatever, that come and they just try it once and they suck. And so this is where the determination comes. Do they come again, or do they never come again?
Right.
Most don't come again. And that's where these kind of conclusions come from. Boy, that was a weird rant, but I think that's what it is.
Yes. Hopefully we didn't offend too many people.
I don't know.
At least offended the right
Probably
people, maybe.
did. Here's another one that's contentious. Ready? Patriot. This one's for me, but it's both of us. Karl.
Missiles?
No.
Oh.
No, not Patriot missiles. Karl. If Ian is gun Jesus, are you?
Oh. Well, if you look on the internet, apparently.
Are you gun Jesus?
If that is a name by which I have become
Okay.
associated.
If
How
Ian
about
is
that?
gun Jesus, which we do see a lot of, what are you towards me? Well, thought about this question, and my first inclination was nobody. I'm Karl. I help do in range, but I think the better answer is I'm Gun Lucifer, the bringer of light, and we work together. See, we pull the strings behind the veil. You don't see this. There's like this veil, and so Gun Jesus and Gun Lucifer, we pull the strings and manipulate the whole system together. It's like it's really we work together to form this to work to our benefit.
Yeah, to manipulate the world to our own ends.
So if I'm going to give myself a moniker, and this is Gun Jesus, I would like to be Gun Lucifer.
Okay.
The bringer of light. That's what I want.
I would warn you about the potential ramifications of adopting either one of those names from firsthand experience.
You've had some interesting ramifications for being Gun Jesus?
Well, you know what?
You did play into it, let's be fair.
I
You went as
absolutely did.
Jesus at a shotgun match or whatever, yeah.
Well, the name comes from the fact that the hair makes it kind of distinctive.
Yeah, sure.
And so, you know what? It's a really fun Halloween costume to use.
Oh, totally. And you
a
got
fun
that
character.
And you got that nickname from more than one source.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people on the internet think they're responsible for it, but that actually came from the AFTI forum. Or the AFTI. There was
Explain AFTI.
The Association of Firearm and Tool Mark Examiners. Basically, the real-life version of the NCIS bullet forensics.
The
guys.
real forensics guys.
Yeah.
They gave you that nickname.
Yeah, a couple of them up in Seattle. I was doing. They had their annual meeting,
Yep.
and I gave a couple of talks there, and that name originated from that event, and then I kind of played into it, and I think some other people came up with it independently afterwards.
Sure.
But yeah, you know, I am thankful that
it's a positive nickname. It's meant in
yeah,
love.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I'm thankful that it's the internet. The name that gets stuck on me could have been any number of horrible things.
Yeah, it could have. Yeah.
Gun Jesus is better than most.
Pretty kind, honestly.
So, yeah, it is.
It's a positive thing.
Yes, it is a term of endearment.
That's the word I meant.
It is occasionally awkwardly applied. How about that?
Well, that's the case with everything. So if someone's going to ask me what's mine, if you're Gun Jesus, my real answer is I'm nobody, I'm Karl, I help run InRangeTV. If we're going to go ahead and go with that, I'm Gun Lucifer, the bringer of light.
That works.
Works well on a paradigm, too.
All right.
It's cool. All right. Kyle H., if you have to purchase a modern handgun for general use that is not a Glock, what would it be? Walther, HK, Springfield, etc.
I don't know what those are. I think only Glocks exist. So.
Ian says Glock.
Or, I don't know, a Colt Navy?
Wow, that's way down the other end of the spectrum, isn't it? You know what? Here, let's go ahead and tiddlywink some future projects. We are getting a Hudson 9.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Which we are excited about.
I want this thing.
That was one of those things I've heard back and forth from people at SHOT Show. It doesn't live up to the hype. It did live up to the hype. We shot it. We're like, wow, this might live up to the hype.
Yeah, it might.
We didn't say it does. We're like, well, that's pretty cool. The hype wasn't complete garbage.
The problem is that SHOT Show, you get to fire like 5 rounds.
Yeah, but then we talked to Cy and Lauren, and what was more interesting about the Hudson 9 wasn't the few amount of rounds we got to fire. It was their mindset towards approaching the product and the project. And that in itself means to me that the way those two interacted together as a couple designing that gun and what their design goals were made that a very interesting, compelling project.
Yeah.
And so that has potential for being fantastic.
God, I really hope that lives up to the
we don't have it yet. We're getting it.
Yeah.
We're going to do what we do. We're going to run it through a bunch of competitions, concealed carry it, all those things for an in-range video project. So we're excited about that. So I would say the Hudson 9 is an interesting, not yet in the hand, compelling argument. If I were to pick one that is for general use that is not a Glock, well, we're not saying what for. We're not saying concealed carry. We're just saying modern handgun use.
Call it a service pistol.
I'm going to go with the one that I had great success with before switching to the Roland Special. I'm going to go with the Beretta 92.
Okay. I'm going to say that the differences are minor enough that pick one, get good with it, doesn't really matter.
They all pass that 80%, don't they?
As long as you stay above a certain quality level.
Yep.
I wouldn't buy a car. I wouldn't buy a High Point.
Although we saw the High Point do okay.
Yeah, but
the handling's terrible.
The High Point gives up a lot of things.
The handling's terrible.
Yeah. Any of the reasonable name brands.
I agree with you. They're all above the 80%.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Those arguments are kind of pedantic.
Once, don't sweat it. Buy one that's standard, $500-$600. Get really good at it. Shoot it for, let's say, a year. Then come back and you'll know exactly what it is that you don't like and what you think would be better. And then you can upgrade to a gun that fits you personally a little bit better. Because only after you've shot one for a year will you actually be able to assess what's good and what's bad about the gun for you.
I agree 100%. Here's a fun one. Mikey T. I'm a sous chef, and I'm curious to know if you guys like to cook. If not or so, what are your favorite things to make and or consume? Wow, that's not a gun one. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. I actually really enjoy cooking.
You do like cooking.
Yeah.
As long as it's got green chilies in it.
I like green chilies. I cook lots of things that have green chilies. I know. You just then have to put green chilies on top of it, whatever it is.
Right.
Brownies, green chilies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's true.
I don't really have a specific area of
You must have
food
a specific
expertise.
but you like to cook specific things.
Honestly, my cooking interest is kind of like my firearms interest in that I like exploring novel things.
You've done some French stuff recently, right?
Yeah, I got it. There's some really.
I didn't mean that as a sarcasm either, but you have done some French cooking.
Exploring how sauces are made, what goes into them,
Demi-glaze and all that, right? Yeah.
The different styles of base sauce.
You make Southwestern-y stuff too.
Yeah, I do Southwestern. I do Italian from time to time. I really enjoy watching Alton Brown. How about that? I've gotten really hooked by good eats recently.
Alton Brown's really cool.
Yeah.
But you know what? Add to that, not necessarily cooking. What's your favorite thing to eat? Do you have a favorite style of food? That's on there too.
Well, this is kind of boring. I'm a burger connoisseur.
He is.
You don't like burgers. I really like hamburgers.
I'm not
good, proper hamburger, bacon, green chili. That fits pretty well right there.
Not a burger guy at all.
Yeah.
My favorite style of food would be Creole.
Okay.
Which is the city fare of Louisiana in the New Orleans area. Creole cooking is my favorite thing. So Creole and Cajun are two different things.
Yes.
Cajun is the field food. Cajun is what the Acadians would eat out in the swamp.
This is basically roller locked versus roller delayed.
No, they're different. They are quite different.
Exactly.
It's
roller locked versus roller delayed.
They blended together. But Creole is the city cooking that has more of a European French higher more complicated end, more
Okay.
technical type of cooking.
Yeah.
It's very French influenced, although Louisiana, New Orleans is very eclectic in terms of its origins. I go to New Orleans a lot, by the way, so it's something that's a city I really like. But Cajun is, I like both. Creole would be my favorite, and I don't cook much, but if I'm gonna sit down to cook, because I like Creole cooking so much, I probably would try to make something Creole.
Okay.
So I would say that's my favorite. Outside of Creole food, I would go with, actually, it's kind of way down a different path, Japanese. I like Japanese food a lot too.
I'm not a big fan of Japanese.
Sushi, but also traditional Japanese food too.
I guess I find when I'm traveling, which I've been doing quite a lot recently, I really enjoy taking a week to just delve into whatever the local cuisine is in a place. Anything from Scandinavian eating weird preserved
We
fish.
had great food in Finland.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I was in Denmark recently and had, I'm not even going to try and pronounce freaking Danish. It's impossible. But basically,
Did you have the shield with the pancakes in them, the ablaskivers?
no, I did not have
Skivers?
that.
Ablaskivers, I think it
I
is.
had the traditional Danish lunch, which is a dark rye bread with stuff on top. In particular, veterinarian snack is the colloquial name.
That sounds horrible.
Well, it's got 4 different kinds of animal on it.
Veterinarian, though.
Yes, the idea, not a very good veterinarian.
Well, that's funny.
It was
And
different.
you had a
but
Danish in
very cool.
Denmark.
Yes, that was also a major life achievement. I ate a Danish in Denmark.
Bing. Plus
Yeah.
1. 3 left, guys. All right. Future content. BR Waldo. Are there any plans for any other gunsmithing videos like the few Ian did with his Gunland projects? He didn't say this, but I would say like we did on InRange with the Set Me All.
Set Me was absolutely a good example.
Are we going to have others like that?
Not like Gun Lab.
Nothing planned right now, right?
Gun Lab was feasible for me at the time because that was in the shop where I was working at the time.
Right.
And so it was kind of just a vlog of, well, as far as 4 videos can be called a vlog, it was what I was doing at the time, and it made good video content. I am no longer in that situation. The work I do on Forgotten Weapons has dramatically overtaken most of my available time. So I can certainly see us doing another build series like the Set Me L.
I don't know what it is
exactly
right
what
off-
it would be.
I don't know.
Yeah, it might be, it will probably be some gun that we're not aware of yet. Some parts kit will come into the country that will be particularly suitable for building. Maybe FAMAS's. That'd be cool.
Oh. I
doubt it.
This isn't gun building and gunsmithing, but I do have something I'm working on that we're going to work on together, which is some kind of really interesting, serious kind of submachine gun hacking.
Yeah.
It's not building, it's not gunsmithing, but it's delving into the mechanics of how they work and why, and some of the weird stuff we can do with them.
Yeah.
So that's coming.
Should I risk pissing off people who aren't fully thinking through what I'm going to say?
Oh.
We may delve into some smart gun stuff.
Oh.
Integrating electronic components into firearms.
Yeah, that's true. Smart gun, by the way, doesn't mean necessarily authentication. It could be a lot of things.
Right. And before people say it, I absolutely understand the laws that are in place in a number of states that have very specific floodgate clauses.
We're not going to trigger that.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
It's not what he's talking about.
But the addition of more real modern technology into what are essentially 1950s firearms.
The word you're using for smart gun is really the integration and bisection or combination of modern technology and electronics in firearms for force multiplying capabilities.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be something as simple as a thermal scope. It could be authentication. It could be something like could be round counters.
Yep, I was just about to say that.
That's stuff we're going to try to play with.
Any number of things, but that's a possibility.
Enhancing firearms with modern tech.
Yeah,
which is
very
not what people think of as smart guns, but that is kind of the same thing. Charles A., I know you commented earlier that you have some more historical videos planned. I do. There's one halfway through edit right now. In fact, actually, there's one coming out Saturday. It's a historical. It's not an Old West vignette, but it's definitely a history video. I know you're well positioned in the Western U.S. and the wealth of history located there, but do you have any presumably long-range plans to come to the East Coast to make some historical videos or perspective? I haven't had anything on the East Coast. I have some stuff that I'm thinking about doing in Louisiana. It's not the East Coast, obviously. That's the Deep South.
Most of the history stuff that we do that is geographically based, we can do because we, and by we I mean mostly Karl, has a very deep, long experience in the area. And you've gone out and you've found a lot of these things, and you've spent a lot of time developing a deep background knowledge of the subject.
Which had nothing to do with InRange.
And that applies to southwestern U.S. and also to Louisiana.
Yeah, it does.
And that makes it possible to easily do video out here. The idea of going to the East Coast in a place where we don't have that basic background understanding already, and then trying to fly out, show up for a day, and do a video on some very interesting place or event, it's a lot more difficult when you don't already know the story.
It also forces the content to be more cursory than I want it to be
Yeah.
when I'm doing a history video. You may not notice this, and not everyone watches the history videos on InRange, but if you do, the goal really is to be not just oh, this stuff happened. It really is meant, it might be cursory on the top, but it actually comes from a fairly deep level of previous history with the topic.
Yeah.
So that's what makes them slow and long and far few between, because they're not cursory. I don't go, huh, that's interesting, and then do a video on it. It's literally, wow, I've been doing something, like you said, on this topic for a long time in my life just because I appreciate it. There are some stuff I do want to do that we have history experience with that might not be in Arizona.
Right.
I'm thinking about doing some more stuff in New Mexico.
Okay.
And so that's on the radar.
I would love to do some stuff with Little Bighorn.
Yeah, and that's on the radar too.
Yeah.
So yes, but not East Coast. I'm sorry.
Did you see that?
What?
I think the camera died.
Camera died. We've been out here so long doing this, the camera died.
The camera apparently got bored with our rambling. So,
we're now on another camera.
we have one last question, though.
One.
What is the last question?
Joshua F. What is the video backlog like? We get videos from matches that happened months ago, so what's the production pipeline like? Why is Ian's schedule so messed up?
Why is... He's Canadian, isn't he?
It's
Must,
right here.
must be Canadian.
Yeah.
My schedule is messed up because I have, for some inexplicable reason, gotten into the habit of posting a video every single day. And so that means I have to film 365 per year, which means I have to spend a lot of time traveling around to various places that have a lot of interesting guns and filming stuff there.
And you've been traveling a lot lately.
I really have. This last month or two has been a bit more than it really should.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why I haven't been in more in-range videos recently, is because I've been gallivanting around places like Switzerland and Canada and Denmark and Illinois.
And then you come back and then it's like, let's do in-range stuff.
Quick,
and then
yes.
you're back on another horse, really.
Yeah.
As for the production pipeline, first of all, the editing, I think that unless you do video editing yourself, the amount of effort involved in getting a video to look good is actually quite significant.
Yeah. Which is why I don't bother making them look good on Forgotten Weapons. I don't have the time.
Well, yours are, they're not, it's not they don't look good, they're simpler in terms of the editing requirements.
I have very specifically formulated those videos to not require a lot of fancy editing.
And most of the in-range content is, none of them are edited the same way. The closest thing to being consistent are match videos.
Right.
But even those, they're different.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they take some work.
they do. And then a lot of anything that's not match content have a lot of editing requirements.
Right.
The Old West vignette about Columbus, New Mexico with Pancho Villa, I showed you the timeline on my editing on that, and you were like,
crazy.
Wow. And I actually did the math on that one, figured out how long it took me to do that video. This does not include traveling to New Mexico to film the content. It does not include gathering the archival data or doing any of the historical research. This is strictly downloading the video and editing it into a digestible format. Mm-hmm. The editing alone for a 15-minute long video took me 16 hours.
Jeez, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining. That's what it is. It's just that is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So 15 minutes, 18 hours. Wow. That's an interesting thing. Now, I know some of you out there are like, I'm a professional videer. I could do that in 20 minutes. Well,
if you would like to provide your services for free,
please have at it.
Contact us.
But I'm trying very hard to and I don't always succeed, but for the most part with InRange, I'm really trying to put a lot of effort into making sure that the videos have a reasonably high level of polish.
Yeah.
They're not all perfect, I get it, but I try to make them as nice as they can be,
yeah,
considering the conditions we film in sometimes. And the historical ones in particular, I try to really make that right. And so that kind of stuff takes a lot of work. The other thing is it's a very diverse channel. We have content about historical references. We have military history. We have firearms. We have competition shooting. We have technical discussions. We have gun builds. We have food reviews. We have digital rights stuff. I mean, more, actually. There's more diversity than that.
Yeah.
And the channel and the people that support it are comprised of a variety of people, some of which only want to focus on maybe one or two of those topics.
Right.
Not all of them. Some people want to see all of them.
Right.
Some people want to see a couple of them. So if you're really into the What Would Stoner Do project, man, 365 days of What Would Stoner Do would be fantastic. But if you're the guy into
then we lose everybody else.
All the guys that are into the historical stuff would be like, wow, I don't care about this AR stuff. And then they wander off, right? So what we do is we film stuff and then try to put it out in a narrative that spreads that type of diverse content as thinly across each month.
Okay, I don't think thinly is really the word you're going for, but evenly.
That's what I meant. A stupid statement. Try to spread it as evenly. So
the key is to publish material on each specific type of content
really
slowly enough. Yes, that was a really poor choice of words.
It was.
The key is to publish it all slowly enough that we really irritate every specific subgroup of viewer by not having enough of what they specifically want.
Well, no, it's a good thing that people want more of it, right? So,
yes,
I mean, let's be honest. So when we do, like the What Would Stoner Do stuff has been at a drumbeat. And part of that has been because it took us time to do the work to even come to the conclusion we want to come to.
Right.
We didn't just buy a product and go, tat, 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 and be like, wow, this is the sweetest handgun I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
A la the most recent Karnacon video I did with PNS, where he reviews the SIG. He's like, I've never had this gun in my life. Boom, boom, boom. It's awesome. We're not doing that. And so we have to take the time to actually get the data. Yeah. Then we actually have to create the content. Then we have to make it digestible. And then we don't want to put it all out at once because not everyone wants to watch only What Would Stoner Do or whatever.
I learned that lesson with Bergmans.
Oh, the month of Bergmans.
Yes, the infamous Bergman debacle.
Was it a month of Bergmans?
No, but it was a couple weeks.
The month
it was like 20.
The month of Bergmans.
Yeah, it was perhaps too high a dosage of Bergman and too short of a time.
Well, but on a positive note, considering the diversity of the audience of InRange, when the What Would Stoner Do stuff comes out a couple a month, we'll get messages like, when's the next What Would Stoner Do video?
Yeah, we like keeping you guys in suspense and always eager for the next
or
chapter.
The Old West ones are long and far between. I said one video took 16 hours of editing alone. Yeah. When's the next Old West vignette? Or when's the next XYZ? When's the next historical two-gun match? Well, because of that diversity, we're spreading it evenly. That's because all those things are thankfully popular to a certain part of the audience.
Right.
We want to make sure that we don't just deluge anyone with only one thing. Yeah. So something that filmed 3 months ago, let's say here's an example, it's actually reality. We did a couple matches months ago with a SCAR, SCAR 17. None of that content's on InRange yet because we have other stuff happening with the SCAR that's going to add more value to that match content when we put them in aggregate.
Right.
So that one's waiting for some other stuff to happen, and then there will be like a SCAR series, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
20 SCAR videos in a row. No breaks.
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
But there'll be like a couple of them like together, which then adds again. Yes, themed, and the aggregate of those together will be better than just a SCAR video 3 months ago.
InRange now with themed content clusters. It's like a breakfast cereal.
Exactly. So pretty much that's it. That's the good answer for that. That said, remember, guys, if you've made it all the way through this video, you probably already are a supporter in one way or another, but we are a fully viewer-supported only project, no monetization from YouTube whatsoever. We were one of the, I think we were one of the first ones to call shenanigans with InRange on what's going on with YouTube and demonetize ourselves.
Yeah.
And be like, direct viewer support's the answer, let's decentralize. We distribute our content at least 5 different networks right now. You can find them all on InRange.tv. If you don't want to watch YouTube, you can watch it on BitChute or Full30 or Facebook or other places that I'm constantly putting effort into.
Yeah.
And to me, that's kind of it. Go ahead.
Do you have the Morse code, the radio station yet?
We don't have that yet.
Tune in to whatever, the exact frequency.
Well, if you have the right number station and get the right numeric code and get it in the right sequence,
right,
then you can find the InRange number station.
Yeah,
but that's a whole other topic.
And to download a 2 gigabyte video takes 7 months.
Something like that, exactly. So, but the point is the reason we're doing that is because I strongly believe in that decentralized endeavor. I strongly believe in the viewer support, making it and freeing us to be able to do the kind of content we want and not have to worry about having the cooling effect of can we put this video out or not?
Or having a channel taken down because of arbitrary community strikes that are put in years after a video is published because the video is no longer politically correct.
So we're trying to indemnify ourselves against that. And it's my hope, and I'm not saying that we're not the only ones by far, but it's my hope that some of the research and effort that we're putting forth with InRange and how we decentralize, which does not directly support us fiduciarily, doing that decentralization work is one that's just something I believe in.
Yeah,
will help. Hopefully, we don't need it, but if we do need it, it will help other channels in the future. Yes. To be like, hey, you know what? These guys kind of blazed a trail with this. We're going to try that.
We can figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah,
and hopefully that will help other channels.
So it's kind of it's in my little weird way, hopefully giving something back to the creator community. I don't know. It may or may not. Be nice if it does.
Well, aside from Patreon, one other way that you can definitely support us and look cool doing it is with some of the t-shirt designs we've come out with recently. We're trying to put more effort into having really cool, thought-provoking, and insightful merchandise, not just red, white, and blue Punisher skulls.
That's a good point. I'm not even wearing one right now. I tend to wear band shirts that I like.
Once again, I'm wearing someone else's swag.
But you know what? It's kind of weird. It's weird. I don't like wearing an InRange shirt on an InRange video. I feel awkward with it a little bit.
Interesting.
I don't know why.
Okay.
At any rate, I promote other things that I like. Like I happen to like this musician. But regardless, we do have 2 on there right now that are particularly cool. One is the Polish Resistance Fighter. It just came out.
Vintage Operator.
Vintage Operator. So we're going to have a series of Vintage Operator shirts. This is the first one. And it doesn't even have an InRange logo on it because we didn't want to deprecate the message. But it's got a Polish home army resistance fighter from World War II standing on top of both the authoritarian flags of Germany and the Soviet Union.
Yep, simultaneously.
Nazi
Talk
Germany
about a great position to be in. That's
standing on those tattered flags with a homemade submachine gun, showing defiance against 2 different authoritarian states crushing his country.
Yep.
So that's a really cool shirt with a cool message, and that one's worth getting, and that's there now. The other one we've had since the beginning of the merchandising ever, but we've never put any effort on actually advertising, is from the very first video we ever did, which was about observation ammo, which are essentially bullets that explode once they hit a target. And it's an actual line diagram of the internals of an observation round and how it detonates.
Yeah, German B Patron.
Yep. And the Soviets had the same thing with one of their 54s. And it says on the bottom, mind-blowing information. And that one does have the InRange logo.
Yeah.
Those are both really cool, very unique, unusual, not necessarily gun channel shirts.
Yeah.
They're different.
Yeah, which is exactly what we're going for.
We'll put a link below to our store. Please consider checking them out. There's also Forgotten Weapons shirts there as well.
A whole bunch of other cool stuff in there, too.
Absolutely. So if you aren't already supporting us on Patreon, please consider it. It really is what keeps InRange alive. If you are already supporting us or can't but want to get a shirt, please check that out. And above and all of that, we are also fighting against the AI bots that no longer promote this content. It is extremely important and pertinent for you, if this is the only thing you can do, please share and promote this content for us. You're a biobot for us because we can't. It's a biobot. Biobots are what we're dumping the radiation off the top of Chernobyl.
That's true.
They call them biobots. Well, we need you to dump the radiation of the YouTube AI off of our roof and promote our content as anywhere you can, as broadly as you can, to people you think will want to watch it, because YouTube is not going to do it for us now. Thanks for watching.
That's all we got. Thanks.